name is Ed Montoya. My mother was Uncle Frank's sister, Alvina Lucearo Montoya. I wasn't going to get sentimental, but after that eulogy, got a little story that goes back to 1965. I was going to be a senior in high school. A friend of mine had his mother that was in a rest home here in Phoenix, and I came with him. We rented a motel on 22nd Street in Van Buren called the Coconut Grove. I don't know if you guys remember. Yeah. Well, anyway, my friend went to visit his mother, and I was on the balcony, the second floor. And I was looking around, you know, there's St. Matthew's, the old St. Matthew's is there. This station wagon drives up. And all these kids get out, this lady gets out, the man hugs all of them, and then he goes through and parks by the wall. There was a peach tree that was in there. And I was watching this man, I said, I know that man, that's Uncle. Well, anyway, he looked at the peach tree, and he started picking the peaches. And I said, I'm going to scare the heck out of him. So he had a bag, and I yelled at him. I said, hey! And he turns around and he throws the peaches all over the place. Later on, I walked over there, and he was sitting in the car, and he didn't know I was there. And I said, oiga, ¿qué está haciendo con los peaches? Oh, he said, I thought God had told me not to. He said, Dadito, man, you scared the heck out of me. He said, you son of a gun. That was his favorite word. You son of a gun. He said, I thought it was God that told me not to. Well, anyway, I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Hi, my name doesn't matter. This is all about Uncle Frankie. For almost, well, you guys had the game going for 20, 25 years. And it had to be like 15 or 16 years. I got to play cards with the fellas, and it was Uncle Frankie and Geronimo, A.B., Mr. Garcia, Robert Guy, and some of you people are going, I don't know who in the heck those people are. But that's cool, I can deal with that. We had so much fun. I don't know if anybody knows what a mop squeeze is. When you get your cards like this, and then you go and you squeeze them, you pull it out, and you just get a card. And then Uncle Frankie would go, well, 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 if it isn't old Manuel, just in time for the opening of the fair. And you never know what he had. You know, he was pretty slick. He would play dumb. Like, oh, I forgot. What game are we playing now? Yeah, oh, okay, I think this wins right here. I mean, and he would do that. What somebody touched upon earlier was the fact that Uncle Frankie made Cursillo, and Auntie Adrian made Cursillo in 1960, in Cursillo number 2. And for those of you that have made your Cursillo, you know what I'm talking about. Those who haven't, ask me afterwards and I'll tell you about it. But he said it was a life-changing deal. And the first time that he told me that, I knew I wanted to make a Cursillo. And then I just didn't realize what it meant. And then he told me, he said, Mike, if you would have known me before Cursillo and then after Cursillo, you know, he said the difference was amazing. So what Uncle Frankie did through the things and through his actions, what he became was a fisher of men. He was the ultimate fisher of men because he never, ever told you, hey, you should go to church, or you should do this. He just did it. He just did it. Look at his kids. Gee, Money Christmas. What wonderful kids. What a wonderful family. And when Auntie Chris, and Aunt Mary, and Uncle Frankie, and shoot, even Uncle Johnny. And Uncle Johnny used to say, what's it? The McDonald's one? Watch out, McDonald's. but the thing is, in everything that he did, he was a Christian man. I try to get him to do the, when he thought this, hey, well, what about that person when they were young? Oh, tell me. And he just wouldn't talk bad about people, Okay, it was everything that he did. And his family, his friends, we're his legacy. And when we leave here today, if you wanna show respect, or you wanna show some love for Uncle Frankie, show love to somebody else. That's what he wanted, I'm pretty sure.
Now, I'm going to let you know from my brother-in-law's point of view. I didn't practice too much, or I didn't study too much what I was going to say right now. But then, when you're going to say nice things about somebody, you don't need to practice. When I came home from the Army, May the 3rd of 1947, I got home, and a couple of days later I found out that my sister was getting married, Adriana. And she came to me and asked me, says, John, will you help me get married? I'm going to get married. Well, of course I will. So almost a month later, we had to go to Miami to get compadre's marriage license because he had some kind of a problem. So I didn't have a car, but I had a friend that had one. And I asked him if he would take us to Miami to get those papers done. And he said, sure. So we went over there, compadre, Adriana, compadre Roberto, and one of his brothers. And there was a celebration going over there and coming back. We got home about 1 o'clock that morning. The next day was a wedding. I was the best man, and my future sister-in-law was the bridesmaid, and others, I don't remember the others. The next day, everybody was ready for the wedding. Compadre Frankie was at church and everything, but my sister was late. She couldn't, I don't know what the delay was. So he had to come back to the house and to see what was wrong. And I think by that time she was already in church. So he went back to the church with my future mother-in-law, and they arrived. They arrived there, and the wedding took place. I had asked my grandfather, if we could use his house to have the ceremony, the celebration after the wedding. And he said, okay. He had a big house with a big living room and a lot of space to dance. So we had the ceremony there, the wedding. And it was a simple wedding, but the whole family was there, and everybody had fun and celebrated and everything. Next day they went their way, we went our way. And after that we saw each other, and not very often because he was busy raising a family and building a house. And I had gotten married in October of that same year, and I was building a family and a house also. So we didn't see each other very much, and what we did, we exchanged ideas of where to get the best material, the most reasonable price, and we exchanged information like that, and that's about all. But he, one time, he was always very grateful that he married my sister, and he let us know. And he took to our family real well. He liked the whole family, and he treated the family real good. And the family did the same thing to him. He was a very loving person. He could win people over and make good friends and good relatives. And one time he told me that while he was in the South Pacific, they had moved him back from the war front. They gave him R&R, rest and relegation. And he was in the, got an arrest on the beach, I don't know what island it was. And he lay down and relaxed, and he went to sleep. And when he woke up, he opened his eyes and he saw nothing but water. The island where he was at was not there. So he started praying. He was a very courageous man and believed in God. So he started praying to see what to do. And I don't remember exactly what he told me, but he had to swim or do something. And by the grace of God, he started swimming the right direction until he ran into land and saved himself. And then another thing that I like him a lot for about is that when my sister got sick, she was handicapped. The way he treated her. She was handicapped, she couldn't do all her chores, so he kicked in himself and helped her to do the things that she had to do. And that's very courageous, and that's the way it's supposed to marry, it's supposed to be. When you make your vows, you say, and we learn to share with one another in health, and in sickness, in riches or in poor, whatever. And you fulfill those promises, and he did. He promised God he would take care of my mom, my wife, his wife, the best way he knew how, which he did. He was very courageous, and really, he was a loving person, and all the things everybody has said about him right now are true. Are true because I have heard them before and from other people too. And I'm tired now. I can't talk more, so I want to share those things with you. Thank you.
After my mom passed away, I would go once a week and I'd spend the night with him for like about 6 years. And every week we'd go to eat and he'd have me drive through these warehouses looking for this homeless man named John. And he had me looking for him, driving him through there. We'd go and give John some money. So my dad, he loved John, and I think he even had Viola do it one time too, didn't he, Viola? Looking for John. So John, and he'd always tell John, pray for me. So my dad was such a generous man and such a giving man. He did give all of his heart away to people. Thank you.
I just wanted to say that being a part of this family has really been terrific. A big part of that was Dad. About a year ago, Dad was in a nursing home shortly after he was in the hospital. I go to visit him. He's laying in the bed, his arms across his chest. I walk in, I sit down next to him. So, Dad, what are you doing? He looks up at the ceiling, and I look up at the ceiling to see what he's looking at. There's a picture of Jesus up there, and he goes, I'm waiting on him to come get me. I said, Dad, you gotta be kidding me. It's not your time. And you've got so many hearts left to touch. And the funny thing was, I didn't realize that it was mine that he needed to touch. And he touched me in so many ways, and I'm so blessed to be a part of this family. And to have the opportunity to go visit him after work, and I'm thinking about cute little stories I could tell him when I got there, because he just loved to hear me talk. And he would always say, I talk too fast, or slow down, or something like that, because I would just get so excited to hear the story. And he would sing the same little songs, and then, you know, he'd go to bless me, and then he'd say, you know, thank you for being a part of our family, and I'd always say, you know, thank you for letting me be a part of yours. And I know as many times as he's touched my heart, he's touched your heart so many times, and I'm just so thankful to have been a part of this, and continue to be a part of the family. But, and I told him, we'd talk about different things, and then I think I mentioned this to you guys the other day, was that, you know, when we were talking about going somewhere or doing something, he would always say, good Lord willing, and I'd follow up with, and the creek don't rise. And he goes, one day he's like, so what's creek rising got to do with going? So, well, you know, like, you're going somewhere and there's a creek in the way and there's water running through it, you can't get to the other side. And I was thinking the other day, you know what, the creek did rise. It's, you know, it's flowing out all of our eyes, and it's just, I love everybody, and thank you so much for making me part of your family. I really, really appreciate it.
Hi, my name is Jacqueline, and I'm Marilyn Lucearo's oldest daughter. And I just wanted to share a story from when I was a lot younger, and I was having this very minor corrective eye surgery, and to me I thought it was the end of the world, and I was really groggy and I was crying, and I just asked for Grandpa to hold my hand, and in that moment I thought everything was okay. I wasn't worried or scared, and anytime he ever saw me crying, he would always not mock me, but, you know, just, it would bring me back to that time, and he'd go, Grandpa, hold my hand, and he knew it would make me laugh, and he wasn't very big in stature, but anytime he comforted me, he just made me feel very safe, and, you know, I was just proud to be one of his grandchildren, and he just was very, very loving, and I just wanted to share that story. It's just how he touched me every time.
Hi, I'm Marilyn, Frank's daughter, the fourth one in the line of the baseball team. I have a couple of stories, and one is when I was a really little girl, around 5, 6. Every Saturday morning my dad would get up, even Sunday, get up early in the morning, and he'd be in his bathroom getting ready to shave. And there was we had the green porcelain sink with metal legs. And I would always be on the end of it, hanging on her, staring at him and looking at him, and looking up at him, and getting up on my toes so I could get a closer look, because he looked like Santa Claus with a foam on his face. And it was just, I don't know, I really was enthralled. I thought he was a giant, you know, because I could get closer, and I'd always like to see him get those little strokes. I don't know how he did it without cutting himself. And he'd look down at me and then tap the thing, and goes, I love you. And I go, no, I love you. And then he'd stroke it up a couple more times, shake the soap off into the sink, tap it, and he goes, no, I love you. And I go, no, Dad, I love you. And he goes, how much do you love me? And I go, I love you this much. I would open up my arms as hard as I could, and I go, I love you this much. He goes, you know what? I love you more than that. And I go, no, Dad, I love you so much. It goes around the world. I love you so much. And like my daughter said, he was small in stature, but looking up at him, he was a giant. All of you fathers who have kids, just know that you were a giant to your kids. And they'll love you. They'll cherish you for life. There was another story I wanted to tell, and this is at the casino again. He knows how to show a woman a good time. We went to go see Elvis over at the McDowell. I'm not familiar with the casinos, I don't go. But it was outside, and I thought we were going to be inside in a nice, cool comfort. No, I was dressed up, had a white shirt tucked in, blue pants, and my hair was put up. After the show, we decided to go into the casino, and it was standing room only. And I don't know the protocol as to whose turn is what at what machine. I just know that he found a machine and he was going to stick with it, and he was pulling the thing, tapping it, giving it the sign of the cross. And as he's doing that, I'm looking around and he can't even move. And I'm watching these ladies behind us, and they were very intent on this one machine, but everybody was backed up. And they were like rabid dogs. And all of a sudden, some of the women got out of the chair. Another woman sat down in the chair. Well, I guess you don't do that because there were other people waiting, but they were friends and switching off. Before I knew it, I saw women grabbing their hair and pulling and shoving and screaming. And they were coming at us, and all of a sudden they came over to Dad, and he was like this. He didn't all of a sudden, I was backing up so they wouldn't hit him. They did hit him. They knocked his hat off his head. He goes, down, you know. I'm like, well, Dad, there's a fight. And he's like this. I turned around and I yelled at the two women, stop it! You don't do that. So both of them turned around, looked at me, and because the way I was dressed, I guess I looked like security. They took off, you know, and from then on, Dad would always call me his bouncer. And then when he did pass away, I go, he's got another bouncer upstairs. So those were some of the great times.
I thought Joe would come up here and share the fish story.
Hi, how are you? You know, Uncle Frankie and my dad, as they were growing up, I remember them sharing stories with each other about when they were small and how they used to play with each other. One time, my Uncle Frankie was my dad's older brother, and my dad would always follow him around. Any place he would go, there went my dad right behind him. And Uncle Frankie didn't want him to follow him around, so he kept shooing him away. My Uncle Frankie just wanted to stay with this little group of friends. He didn't want his little brother hanging around. So one time, my dad finally caught up to him, and they turned around and told my dad, come on over here, we want to show you something. So they ended up getting the goat, and they put my dad up on top of it and tied his legs to the bottom of the goat. So this goat goes bucking up and down, bucking up and down, bucking up and down till it threw my dad off. And when my dad fell, he started crying. So my Uncle Frankie turned around and went to his friends. He says, you got any money? You got any money? And so his friends gave him all the pennies, nickels, and dimes that they had. And he says, here. He says, now don't you go tell nobody that we put you on this goat. And my dad says, okay. So he started walking away from him. And after he got maybe about 10 yards away from him, he says, I'm going to tell anyway, yeah? But Uncle Frankie, he was a jokester. He loved everybody. You'd go up to shake his hands. He'd turn around and move it around on you. He says, I get 9 out of 10 that way. And I like when he used to, him and my dad used to get together and take apart spark plugs and put little pieces of paper in between the spark plugs and put them back together and use them like a trumpet. And they'd play songs all day long with these spark plugs, you know. And just he was a loving man, you know. We're all going to miss him. Thank you.
Thank you, Uncle Joe.
I admired him very much because he was a strong man and he had a lot of willpower and his word was the law. And I wanted to be just like him. When I grow up, I want to be like my abuelito. When my grandmother died, I went to give my condolences, and he got up and hugged me and started crying. and he cried like a baby. And I thought, there's no such thing as a strong man. They break down too. And I'm breaking down. Because Frankie played a big part in my life. There's several people that played a big part in my life. Adrian was one of them, and through Adrian, I met Frankie. But before they met each other, I used to wander the streets in the barrio, and I got to know Frankie before. And in those days, there was wrestling matches at the Madison Square Garden, and everybody in the neighborhood would go. And I also see him over there in the Madison Square Garden. And I used to wander down the alley, and Johnny, his brother, and Frankie were always making the wrestling move on one another. I mean, they would really get into it. They wouldn't hit the ground or anything like that. Like, I used to watch it, just like being down at the Madison Square Garden. And that's one of the stories about Frankie and Johnny. And he taught me a lot. I learned a lot from Frankie. You know, he taught me how I learned to love and respect people. He respected my sister and treated her well. And you know, when that happens, there's happiness and joy. And in 2004, I got sick and my kidneys failed. And Frankie was there. And one day or another, he was there to take me communion. He would take communion too. When I got out of the hospital, he would take me to the doctor visits, my appointments. And he a lot of times, he helped me buy my prescriptions. And then in 2006, after I got better from that, I fell off the roof and broke my hip. And they took me, I was in the hospital for about 5 days. And I really don't remember the 5 days because they gave me an injection and I was, I don't know, I was in the room somewhere. And they took me to a place over there, 91st Avenue in Thunderbird. And Frankie would go over there and take communion to me. He did a lot for me through all the years. And we went fishing, we went camping. One day he came to the house and he told me, look at my fish, you know. So I went out there and he had a big old catfish. Big, I mean, it was 32 inches long and I don't know how many pounds. And he says, it's a record, you know. Let's go to KPHO. So we went to KPHO, and at that time there was some kind of a tournament going, and everybody was busy, and they couldn't get the measurements, and there was nobody to go take pictures to put them in the paper. So we went, I don't know how many stations. We had fish, and I decided I was going to go catch one. I'm gonna go catch one of the fish. So I started going fishing, and he got it at and he asked me, "Did you catch one?" I said, "Yeah, but I wasn't as lucky as you." I said, "I went fishing and I caught one, and I would bring it in, and the fish would fight." And I had to give him line so it wouldn't bust it and go back in deeper. And after a little bit, I'd reel him back in again. And the fish kept fighting, would fight and back in and go. And the water users, one of the water users from SRP came by and he tells me, "Any luck?" I said, "Yeah, I got one in there, but I can't reel him in because just as I'm bringing him in, he goes back in." And he tells me, he was listening to me, he was really putting a lot of attention to my fish story. And the guy tells me, "I'm gonna go check the turbines on the gates, water gates. I have to go down with my tanks, go down there, but I'll be right back and I'll go down there and see what's happening." He did that and he came back and he told me, when you reel in the fish and when you start tugging, you won't pull it 3 times and give it some more line. I said, "Okay." So he went in there with his oxygen tanks and I let the line go out. And the fish quit fighting. I started reeling him in. The fish came on real easy. And then it stopped, it started fighting, and I let it go. And the guy comes out and he says, "You know what? You have a big fish, a real big fish, but you'll never get him out." And I said, "How come?" He said, "Because somebody dumped a car in there." And the fish went through the rear windows to one and to the other one. And when you reel him in, when he comes in through the first window and he's going out the other one, he rolls it out. And Frankie, through his work, they sent him to through a school, resuscitation school, how to bring people back, or CPR. And I always teased him, when he would talk about that, I would tell him the story about your friends, how you try to save your friend. What do you mean, you know? And I would tell the story. I said, "You know, Frankie here, he resuscitates people and stuff like that." And he went to visit his friend, and his friend's grandmother was very ill. She was very ill. And they were there watching her, and she went into a seizure. And the guy said, "I'm going to go to 911. And Frankie said, "I'll take care of her." And when the guy came back, Frankie was pulling her teeth out so she wouldn't swallow them. So he would pull the teeth out, and he would say, "Mentiroso." Raised her head up, and the guy comes out, "What are you doing?" "I'm trying to pull her teeth out, her dentures out, so she won't choke." And he says, "They're not her dentures, that's her real teeth." Frankie and I had a real good relationship. We always laughed and talked, made fun of each other, and it was real good. I'm going to miss him, and I'm not going to forget him. I'll always have, I have a lot of memories of him. And, you know, it's sad that things like this happen. And one of them would be following me. I hope somebody remembers me.
Well, like you said, now I'm trying to get out of your life.
Yeah. I hope I didn't offend anybody. Thank you.
My name is Martha. I'm the firstborn, well, actually the second one. Daddy, I can atone that he was a very loving daddy. And I can remember, I must have been, I guess, 5 years old or maybe younger. And I did something I wasn't supposed to do. I was being a curious Georgette. Mama had made a big pot of boiling tea and set it on the table. And said, Martha, no te acerques. Don't get near it. And what does Martha do? Get near it. The tea fell on my head, down to my body. I had 1st and 2nd degree burns. Well, I was in the hospital. Daddy would come and visit me every morning before work. And he says, behind a curtain, he'd say, hey, little girl, how are you today, little girl? And I says, Daddy, don't do this. Daddy, take me home. So everything that everyone has said, I can say that it is true. But his love extended more to that. As I grew up, I got married, had my boys, and then I decided to go to school to become a teacher. And he would give me a lot of encouragement. You can do it, Mia. Hang in there, you can do it. I know it's tough, but you can do it. I did it. And then he would come to my classroom and he would show the kindness and the love to my kids. And I had especially one little boy that he remembered, and he would call him El Resorte. And the reason why he would call him like the spring is because when Daddy first came into the classroom, his name was Joseph. He started doing cartwheels and just showing off as much as he could when Daddy came in. And then I got Joseph and I said, Joseph, sit down. And Daddy just looked at me and he had this big grin in his face. And he says, from this day on, Martha, I'm going to call him El Resorte. They keep you busy, don't they? And I go, yes, Daddy, but I love it, I love it, I love it. And I think I get my love for children from him. Because everyone that he met, if he told you he loved you, he meant it. If he told you he was going to pray for you and your intentions and who or what you were going through, he meant it. There was nothing fake about our dad. Nothing fake about him. He is a good man. He will always live in our hearts. His family loved him very much, his sons and his daughters, his nephew, nieces, grandsons, great-grandsons. And what will be bonding us as a family, my brothers and my sisters, Margaret, Mary Lou, Merlin, Frankie, Christopher, Michael, and Tommy, the 8 of us, is his love. That's what will hold us together. That will be the glue. It's going to be stronger than that. And I want to thank all of you for being a part of our life and of being a part of Daddy's life. And we love you all and we thank you all for being here.
Hi, I have a story to share with you guys. My uncle, he's always staring at me and he's probably done this to you too, stare at you and grab your hand and say, I love you. I love you, son. And they just keep on staring at you and you feel kind of funny. I love you too. But there's one other story that I remember of my Uncle Frankie. He said, I went and spent the night with my cousins and me and my younger brother, and that was Saturday night. And then Sunday morning he sent us off to church, and we all jumped in his station wagon, and we're on the way to church, and everybody's saying, what do you guys feel like doing? And I'm like, what's going on? And it's like, I think they've done this before, you know? It was, let's go to Dunkin' Donuts, it's right down the street. from church, you know, so we went to Dunkin' Donuts and we bought donuts and we're eating donuts and laughing and having fun. I think the money was supposed to go in the pork box. And so after eating the donuts, they were saying like, let's go, we got to go to church and get a bulletin so we can show that we went to church. So we were trying to figure who was going to get out and go to the church and get the bulletin, and finally somebody went, and we went home and nobody said anything about what had happened and everything, and then we're eating dinner, and my tío says, so what did the priest say during the eulogy, and what was it all about? Everybody was all quiet looking at each other, didn't know what to say. And he goes, I know you guys didn't go to church. And, but the cool thing about it is, you know, he told us why we should go to church and all that stuff like that. And he never told my mom and dad. This is the first time my mom and dad heard about this. But that's what I wanted to share with you guys. Maybe one day I'll get 9 out of 10 too.
My dad was telling us that my tío Frankie, he liked to go to Sedona and go up to Mormon Lake and all that stuff. So one summer, my dad borrowed some camping equipment from my father. I mean, my father bought it from him, and my dad tells my Uncle Frankie, hey, we're going to go to West Canyon Lake and we're going to stay our whole week there. He goes, yeah. So my dad tells him, you're going to be down at Christopher Creek and we'll be up there over there at West Canyon Lake. So we're out there near the store near West Canyon Lake, and I see my tío Frankie, he's coming out, and me and my brother David are fishing on the shoreline, and he goes on this rock, and then I tell my brother, I go, David, he goes, look at my tío Frankie. He goes, what? He goes, he brought his big old fishing pole where he's gonna go catfishing over there at Horseshoe Dam. He goes, that pole's so big, he's gonna catch a shark out of there. So we're looking at him, and he throws the line out, he just casts it out like that. So he's out there fishing, and my brother says, I think he's going to hook a big rock, he's going to flip us over. So, you know, ever since, you know, I was going fishing, and when I would catch fish, I run down to my tío's house, and have this big old ice chest full of trout. And he goes, you know what, son? He said, I love you. I go, come here, I gotta show you something. So I'm holding this ice chest in my hand, and I put it down, and I go, look inside that ice chest. And he looks inside of there. He goes, where'd you get all those fish? I go, I caught them at Woods Canyon Lake. So he goes, oh, let me pick all the small ones. I go, tío, I got so many fish there, I want you to pick the biggest ones out of there. So he runs inside the house, and he gets a bag, and he starts picking all the fish out. And he goes, you know what, son? I love you. All the time when he sees us, he's always telling us he loves us. He goes, I'm happy that you're my nephew. I says, I love you too, tío. And that's one thing I remember about my tío. And anytime you would go to his house, he would always welcome you in the house and share everything he had in his refrigerator. You could walk inside his house, get you a soda pop, pour you a glass of tea, whatever. He would share anything with you. And that's one thing about my tío Frankie. He had a lot of love inside for everybody in the family, and he would always welcome everyone.
Hi, Aunt Virginia. I just want to say God bless my tío Frankie very much, and I will miss him so much. And we're going to miss him something terrible, and it's going to be happy that he's in heaven. And I love my tío Frankie a lot, and my tío Adrian, and all of our kids. God bless them.
I just want to share something really quick. You know, the last few days of my dad, we got to be with him, and he left in peace. And maybe about 2 or 3 days before, was it Monday, Frankie? I can't remember. The days kind of get mixed up. And his mind would be lucid. You know, he knew what was going on, and then he'd kind of fall back into maybe some memories and growing up and things. And my Frankie was talking to my dad. They were just conversing, and all of a sudden he says, "Frankie, did Jesus just kiss me on the forehead?" And Frankie said, "If you said that's what you saw, that's what you saw." But he was having those kinds of experiences.
My brothers had just spoken, and I'm the youngest in the family. And my Theo Frankie was very giving. I remember when my mom's sister was here visiting, and she was very sick, and my uncle had passed away. So we were trying to figure out how we were going to get to California, and my Theo Frankie came over, and he heard that my uncle had passed away. And he took me to the room, and he says, "I want you to have this on your way to California, and I want you to take care of whatever needs to be taken care of there, whether they need food on your way." And he handed me $500, which was a lot of money. And I said, "Are you sure?" He says, "No, yes. I want you to take care of your way over there." And I was just so amazed, because he had a very big heart. And I remember driving, we were just before Blythe, and I got a blowout. I was getting a flat tire, and we pulled over. And my dad said, "You know, what are we going to do?" We found a tire shop, and he says, Beatrice here." I go, "No, Bob." I said, "My Theo Frankie gave me money, and he's fixing my tire." He was an amazing person. He shared with me when he made his cursil, he said behind them, as they were praying in a group together, there was a curtain. And he said, "Boy, I was so scared. That Holy Spirit was just there, you know." And he realized that's when it hit him, that the Holy Spirit was real. Well, the night before he died, we were sitting there. I came later, and my father was reminiscing with him. And earlier that morning, he was just laying there. We knew he could hear, but he wasn't responding. Well, when I came, he was just talking. Well, when I made my cursil, my Aunt Adrian had passed away. And we were sitting there in our group, and they had to do some skits. And they made these little plates that were yellow with a face on them. They were shaped like little stars. It's like the sun, I mean. And they were singing, "You're my sunshine." And I said, "My aunt is here." And I knew the Holy Spirit through my aunt was present. I never shared that with anybody, but my aunt was there. And when it was our birthday, we could, the phone would ring and you would answer it, and they just sang to you those songs. And I told Margaret I just had to hear him sing one more last time. And with the Holy Spirit, he had enough energy in him. And I told Margaret, "Please have him sing, 'You're my sunshine.'" And I know it was the Holy Spirit giving him the strength to sing that song one last time. And as Mike said, if you haven't made your cursil, you do it for him, and you will find a different person as you have in him. And you will be touched, and I guarantee you when you make your cursil, my dear Adrian and my dear Frankie, through the Holy Spirit, will be present to support you that very weekend. Thank you very much.
I just want to share that when my dad was on his way out, we had a blood pressure cup on him, and we could see that his blood pressure was going down, his pulse was going down, and all of a sudden he would just kind of gibbery jabbing, just, you know, it didn't make sense. And all of a sudden he started telling the story of when God created the earth, when he created Adam and Eve, the story about how the Lord told them not to eat from this fruit. He was saying it all in Spanish, and we just let him talk, and he was just saying that. He went all the way to Noah's Ark. That was amazing to me, you know, because he was getting ready to go, leave this world. And he just loved the Lord. He loved the Lord with all his heart, and he taught us God's love, God's love. And that's what he wants. And my brother, I am so proud of him, Christopher. He says, all I know is that at this day, I want to be a better man than I've ever been. I've seen such a big change in my brother, and I'm so proud of him. And I love you so much. And it's all about love. If you have some reservations about somebody or something, because that happens, God tells us to love our enemies, and it is so hard. It's easy to love those that love you, but how hard is it to love an enemy? And just remember my father through the love and through the singing, because you're right, he sang to the last. He would always sing with me too, Beatrice, so he was known for his singing. And I thank you so much for being here and for loving my dad and letting him love you. Thank you.